All right, so we are live. We are going to be talking about all things PPC, pay-per-click advertising, on Amazon. And I'm excited because we have all the way from Cannes, France, probably butchered the pronunciation. We have Vincenzo Toscano from Ecomc. So, Vincenzo, thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure, Kevin. Thank you so much. I must say the song, to prepare for the live is pretty good song. I was getting the vibe. So,
Oh, yeah. We got some good
so
music there in the countdown
yeah,
timer.
it was very good. So thank you so much for having me, Kevin. I appreciate everything you do in the industry. And, I can't wait to share some wisdom with your audience here from France.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you. And you're located in currently you're in
In
France, and
London.
there's a conference that Amazon is at, if I understand
Yes, I
correctly.
can tell you a little bit about that and also for your audience. So essentially, every single year there's this conference called Cannes Lion, which is a creative event where all the big media players are here, like Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok,
Mhm.
Shopify, all of them. And essentially, it's like very enterprise level. And usually, the reason why the event has such a big fame in the space is because it's combined with a lot of networking events in the beach
Mm.
on the yachts. Like every single big company have their own boats. Like Amazon have their yacht, LinkedIn have their yacht, and everything. And then you go in and out, and you network. So it's a pretty cool dynamic to
Wow,
meet with our
networking
peers.
on yachts. No, if I'm correct, you skipped a yacht party to be here
Yes.
to
So guys,
deliver
I
for
hope
our
those
audience.
questions are worth
I
it.
appreciate that. I appreciate that. Appreciate having you
It's a
here.
pleasure. Pleasure.
All right, so let's do this. So let's get into it. So just so everyone knows, um, you can ask whatever questions you want. Mostly about PPC, we'll answer. We'll prioritize those. But if you have any other questions, get into them. And as we're waiting on questions, I usually jump around and start asking questions as well. Now, what ends up happening is oftentimes for folks that are new to this is just like when you were in school where the teacher says, do you have any questions? And nobody raises their hand
Exactly.
until you get to the end of the class and everybody's got questions. Not everybody's question necessarily gets addressed. So we want to make sure to get to as many questions as possible. So
Yeah.
earlier you get in, the sooner you will get your questions answered. So let's do this. Before we get into any questions, I'm going to give Vincenzo a chance to tell a little bit more about who he is and his background in the space, just for context. But before I do that, I just want to make sure, is this on? So if you don't mind just commenting that you can hear us, that always is helpful. So just in the chat somewhere, say you can hear us. And then I'd also like to know, where are you? So not you, Vincenzo, but the folks watching. So I'm in Florida near West Palm Beach. Vincenzo
It's in
is
Cannes, France.
normally in the UK, I believe, but he's hanging out in Cannes, France. So if
Yeah.
you don't mind, folks, let us know where you're from, and I will. You never know. We might reward participation at any
Yeah.
time in this in this particular live stream. So Umair is joining us from Pakistan. How are you
Helen
doing,
Mara.
man? So hello, Umair. So email Kevin at myamazonguy.com, Kevin at myamazonguy.com, and I will send you a free mag school course. And just so everybody knows, if I ask for participation, this might not be the last free mag school course we'll be giving away, which is $100 value. Nabel, sorry if I just butchered your name, says from Boston. Also email Kevin at my Amazon guy. I will send you a free mag school course. So it's $200 in value. Just gave out $100 each to the two people who said where they were from. So for those who are watching, if you did not comment, comment, because it'll be worth
now.
Yes, exactly. And then Mohammed also says listening to you from Pakistan via Facebook. So also, Mohammed, email Kevin at myamazonguy.com. I will send you a coupon code for a free mag school course worth $100. I've got a long list of coupon codes that I can give away. So folks, just don't be afraid to jump in there. While we're waiting on that, folks, to jump in with more questions, or feel free to also say where you're from. Such as Bell Todd joining us from PA, from Pennsylvania. My father-in-law is a Nittany Lion. Was raised somewhere in Eastern PA, Eastern or Western PA. I should know that. It's not
somewhere.
Or whatchamacallit. what was Pittsburgh? Yes, it's
Cool.
somewhere in the middle there.
Nice.
But anyway, also email Kevin@myamazonguy.com, and I will send you a free mag school course. Hong Duan, if I said that right, also joining us from Vietnam.
Nice.
Also, send me an email, Kevin@myamazonguy.com, and I will send you a free mag school course, as well as Leonard Lee joining us from Minnesota.
Nice.
Free mag school course. Just email Kevin@myamazonguy.com. I'm going to be a little busy here this afternoon giving away.
Yeah, you're gonna be.
If I don't get you right away, it'll be this evening at the latest with free mag school courses. And then Didac says joining us from Miami. So I'm just up I-95 from you, Didac. I'm in Palm Beach in Martin County.
Nice.
And Mohammed says, thanks for the generous reward to learn from the best mag. Yes, my pleasure. And Didac, if I wasn't clear, you and Leonard and everyone else, just email Kevin@myamazonguy.com and you will get a free mag school course worth $100 of your choosing. It's just going to be a free coupon code. So I will send that to you, but you got to email Kevin@myamazonguy.com.
Wow.
And I'll know because I can always go back and look and see. So folks, I can look and see if somebody actually was there. They watched the live stream. You have to be live. That's my one stipulation.
Yeah.
You have to be live. You have to be live and you have to comment live. So, all right. So we got some questions starting to come in. Vincenzo, just real quick, tell everybody a little bit about your background in the Amazon space and why they should care to listen to what you have to say on PPC.
Yeah, so my background actually started as an engineer. I come from engineer background. I am an aerospace engineer. So I was working for Rolls-Royce, and essentially I landed in e-commerce by mistake. I started selling online as a side hustle while I was working at Rolls-Royce as an engineer. And essentially, eventually it started to take off some of the products, some of the brands. And then from there, I started going to different events, different masterminds. I started to see, wow, there's actually a huge space beyond actually only being a seller. I started to meet with other sellers in the space. I identified that a lot of them had amazing products, amazing ideas, amazing brands, but they were lacking execution. And they were seeing what I was doing with my products and everything. They started to ask me, how do you do that? How you do a launch? How you do PPC here and there? And that's where the idea came to my mind, like, oh, actually, I could actually do a consulting business on beside my selling and actually provide value to all these guys that struggling, and the only thing they're lacking is the execution. And that's where it comes. It basically was born over 6 years ago now. We do full account management when it comes to Amazon and Walmart. So we basically do a PPC, branding, ACO, international expansion. We make sure essentially that we take your product and your brand and we make it successful into these two marketplaces. And we actually also do TikTok Shop, for essentially driving traffic from outside of Amazon to Amazon and Walmart, and Alibaba in the States for our B2B enterprise businesses as well. So, yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Awesome. Yeah. Well, that sounds like you've got a wide range of expertise on the topic. So feel free to jump in with questions, folks.
Throw any question, guys. I like challenge.
Exactly. It's all about the challenge. And Anubhav says, hello, guys. Hope you're doing great. I'm from India. So email Kevin@myamazonguy.com and I will send you a free mag school course. And that's last call. So that'll be the last one I'm giving away for the time being, at least on the where are you from question. But you have some questions about Amazon. Well, the good news is you're in the right place. But in order to get your questions answered, you got to ask them. So that's the one stipulation. We do not read minds here, folks. So if you have questions, you have to drop them into the chat there. So, all right. So W asks, if a target is overspending with fixed bids, even 20 cents below the minimum recommended bid, how low should I go? 40 cents. Yeah, I'll let you go whatever direction you would like with that, because with fixed bids, like I'm not 100% sure I understand the question. So you're doing fixed bids, but you're not spending the bid, even though you're fixed bid?
Yeah. So essentially, I guess the question where it comes from is, I know when it comes to launching and trying to rank on a keyword, usually fixed bids is the best way to go, because if you use down only, essentially what could happen is that if you don't have a good history on that keyword in terms of conversion, Amazon may lower the bid and you might not get top of search, or you might get the right placement. So you force the system to pay a premium bid. Now, when you start overspending, at the end of the day, it depends on what is the goal here, right? Because if the goal here is to get essentially as many sales as possible and also get a good conversion to potentially get ranked, those are the KPIs you have to be tracking, not the actual expense of the bid itself. So for example, in this case, you are saying that you keep overspending on the specific bid. I will go and then on the specific campaign and see what is my conversion rate on that specific keyword. And then I will go to brand analytics and compare my metrics against my competition or the median of the niche itself, because that's usually what is going to give you a pretty good baseline in terms of how you're performing. And if you see things such as conversion being very low and at the same time you're overspending, that's a huge signal that you need to start lowering the bid or potentially try other keywords, because the worst thing you can do is try to get sales at all costs and have a very bad conversion, because if you do that over time, you're going to attribute a very bad history to that specific keyword and the product itself as well. And then it's going to be very difficult for you to get positioned organically. So that's usually the way we go about if it makes sense or not to overspend on a specific keyword. What is the objective? Is ranking or is actually profitability? If the answer is profitability, then you need to understand what is the CPC that you can afford based on your P&L analysis, and based on that you can calculate which bid you can afford.
Yeah, and that's a good point about maybe going after other keywords, because I think too often what I kind of read between the lines and questions like this is like, this keyword is really important because it has a lot of people searching for it, but that might not be the right example. And one example I give is like, if you look up markers, you're going to see like crafting type markers. But if you're selling like purple dry erase markers, you need to go after a purple dry erase marker or dry erase marker, and not markers, which is like Crayola or crafting, type markers. You need to go after what is more, maybe doesn't have as many searches, but it's more specific. And so to your point, you're gonna have better conversion rate, click-through rate, and actually get more sales and do it profitably. So
yeah, at the end of the day, some of the things we really care about, and that's essentially what is being allowing us to have pretty good success for ranking strategies, is the click-through rate and the conversion, right? Because we have found that if you focus on getting as many sales as possible and you really forget about those metrics and you don't have a look at brand analytics, what is happening with your whole funnel from top to bottom and all of that, you might be come into the trick that yes, you're making the sales that you need to get positioned organically, but if the CTR and the conversion is not there, trust me, over time you're gonna drop from page one and it's gonna be very difficult to get back into that. So focus on those, I would say, if the ranking is a strategy.
Yeah, and that's such a good point, because at the end of the day, there's only so many people searching for whatever widget you're selling. So whatever widget keyword you're going for, Amazon, at the end of the day, they don't care whether you're a nice person or you did well for your community or you spent a lot of time on the product. All they care about is, does it convert?
Exactly.
If they show you up here, analytically, are you more likely to get the sale than someone else? And so whoever's more likely to get the sale and get them the money they want is more likely to get the higher position.
In fact, just an insight for you guys to know, like we have found that that's why over time you are going to encounter the phenomenon that all campaigns or accounts that have a long history in Amazon tend up paying a lower CPC, right? Because Amazon usually what it does is when you start to converting very well, for them mathematically it makes sense to keep showing more than your competitors, and they're also gonna by nature lower the CPC, so you keep getting the dominance on that specific placement. And that's why sometimes we see brands in the past when doing audits, the same kind of product and category, one guy is paying $1 per CP cost per click, and the other one is paying on average $2 to $3, almost double, triple, because of the history and I attributed to that specific product and how it converted on Amazon eyes. So that's why conversion, I would say, is very important that you keep a clean sheet history in terms of,
yeah, definitely. All right. So Umair asks, how can we take advantage of subscribe 5 or 10% subscribe and save? How to use it in an optimal way, and what are the outcomes you've seen with this? So what are your thoughts on if they should do subscribe and save?
So for me, subscribe and save, and I've been having this conversation so many times. I think the way Amazon is shifting the way they share metrics with us. For example, in the US, they just released a dashboard called the customer loyalty one that you can now see the lifetime value, the recurrent rate at which clients come back and buy from you and everything. I see Amazon going the direction of what D2C is being the whole time, which is focusing on the lifetime value. So why do I do this quick introduction to what I'm going to say next? Because save and subscribe is definitely the way for you to increase and scale your brand. Why? Because at the end of the day, the most expensive thing of a brand is customer acquisition, right? If you don't focus on basically keep reducing the customer acquisition as much as possible and then create a recurrent revenue, it's going to be very difficult for you to become profitable on Amazon. And I see this mistake all the time. People only focus on top of the surface metrics such as tacos and ACOS, which at the end of the day is only a metric that is at the bottom of the funnel, which is the conversion. But what about the whole funnel? The touch points that people may have with your brand to then become loyal fans. And that's where save and subscribe is super important. And the way that we actually incentivize our consumers to get into save and subscribe, there's coupons now, vouchers that you can incentivize save and subscribe, that you can give up 10, 15, 20%, be very aggressive, but you hook them into becoming a save and subscribe. And another day, some of the brands that we manage, actually the metrics that we are constantly tracking is how the save and subscribe change from month to month. And also on top of that, in the US with this new dashboard, what is the lifetime value increasing like, and what is the recurrent rate increasing like? Because if you focus too much only on ACOS and tacos, especially with brands such as supplements and things like that, you may fall into the trap of thinking that yes, you're not profitable, but in reality, you're only seeing one side of the coin. You're not seeing what happens after that consumer buys this product that, yes, maybe it's unprofitable on paper, but that's the reason why they get then introduced to the whole universe that you may offer as a brand, or accessories, upsells, refillables, things like that. So to answer and conclude your question, save and subscribe is definitely something I recommend everybody to do. And if you can be the most aggressive, like 10% or even above, usually offer the max that Amazon allows for the eligibility of your ASIN.
Yeah, that's such a good point. In that, like, as a customer, I feel like if that product is subscribe and save, I have to go through extra button clicks just to not buy at subscribe and save. It's like,
Exactly.
they really push the subscribe and save. Like, if you don't pay attention, you're going to subscribe.
It goes directly. Yeah,
exactly. They really want to push it, which I understand. It's recurring revenue for Amazon, and it's recurring revenue for you as the seller, if it makes sense for your product. Now, if you're selling a wireless mouse, you don't need to sell it and subscribe.
That's exactly. And something that I think you also need to be mindful, which I think Amazon does this on purpose. Once a person subscribe, they make it so difficult for unsubscribe. You have to go on settings, you have to go so many extra steps, and then find this window to unsubscribe. So what I'm trying to say is, once you subscribe, then if the consumer is relatively happy, is most of the time they stay for a very long period of time, right? Even myself, the other day I was having a look at my list of save and subscribe. I had items that I don't use anymore, but I just forgot, and they keep coming to my home, right? And it's like, yeah. So what I'm saying is, like, once you get the consumer into your universe and you're very clear with your branding and also things in terms of inserts and the whole ecosystem, the experience that you give the consumer, they become customers for life, and you overcome the thing that Amazon sellers struggle the most, which is customer acquisition cost.
Good deal. All right. So if you have questions, feel free to drop them into the chat where you're at. We're going to be bringing up more questions here. LinkedIn user asks, how do you manage search terms in a category or product targeting campaigns, which are also sometimes converting with low ACOS?
Yeah. So for those that might not know, I think what he's referring to is sometimes when you target an ASIN, the ASIN in terms of the search term is going to target a specific keyword, and it also happens at the category level. Unfortunately, as of now, you cannot negate within those campaigns, so it's a bit messy if it starts showing for search terms that are actually not profitable for you. A tip I will give to everybody is, like, if you start to see that you start paying for search terms that are not relevant, make sure that you're actually targeting ASINs that are one-on-one comparison to yours, because that usually starts to happen if you're targeting competitors that are using the wrong browsing node. And these are some of the rules we make sure when we do product targeting campaigns. We make sure that the browsing node of that competitor is the same as ours, because otherwise you start getting a lot of wasted amount of keywords because they did the category wrong and the backend optimization, all of that. And that's how Amazon feed keywords to the PPC. Now, to answer how we control this, usually the way we go about that, given that we cannot really negate, is we are very granular in terms of how we create these campaigns. We try to avoid putting more than 5 ASINs on the same campaign, because then if we identify that that specific campaign starts to generate specific search terms that are not profitable, we're able to kill that campaign very fast and then split test all the asins on a new campaign altogether. Because if you then have those massive product targeting campaigns that have seen 200 asins, then it's a mess. You don't know where the search term is coming from. It becomes very, very messy. So that I would say, keep it very to 5 to 10 ASINs, see what is the ASIN generated that specific search term. If it's not profitable, you just try to kill that specific ASIN. If it's profitable, that keyword, then I'll move it usually into exact match and I will test the keyword on its own. Yeah.
Got it. All right.
And I wouldn't negate it because you can at the end of the day. So, yeah.
All right. So thoughts on automatic campaigns, which I guess, how do you run automatic? I'll already add the follow-up question. How do you run automatic campaigns?
So for us, automatic campaigns, specifically at the beginning, usually we try to avoid them because I found automatic campaigns at the end of the day, they are as efficient as the amount of history you have attributed to your listing, right? So that means if you did a very bad job in terms of optimizing your listing, you don't have the right category in the back end, you have been targeting the wrong keywords from a PPC perspective, then you activate auto campaigns, and based on what Amazon sees the correlation between what you did in terms of ACO and what Amazon might think is relatable to that information you get to Amazon, is going to try you to very random asins and keywords, and becomes very unprofitable. So usually what we try to do with auto campaigns, let's say we're launching a new asin, we try to, at least from the first 14 to 30 days, only go exact match campaigns. We try to create that relevancy link between the keywords or category node and our listing as aggressive as possible by having sales, conversion, all of that. And usually then that's when we launch the auto campaign. In fact, if you create a new listing and you go about the PPC dashboard and you try to create an auto campaign, you're going to see Amazon doesn't even suggest you any keywords like it may happen with an ASIN that has history. That's because you're essentially giving a blank board to Amazon to say, get my money and figure out on my own, which is the worst thing you can do. So auto campaign is definitely something important that goes after the initial 30, 60 days of a product life cycle, but I wouldn't say is the one we use from day one. So usually once we identify what are the winning keywords, we launch some auto campaigns, and we divide the different type of basically auto campaign, close match, loose match, and all of that, one per ad group, because the other thing we have identified, if you have the 4 type of auto campaigns into the same master auto campaign, usually only 1 or 2 are going to get all the budget and the other ones are going to do nothing. So we try to do one type of auto targeting per campaign. And on top of that, usually we try to keep a very low bid, because at the end of the day, we just want to use this as the contingency net to grab anything that we couldn't figure out with brand analytics and our research tools, right? And then whatever comes out of those campaigns that's profitable, then that's where we start moving to our manual campaigns. Yeah.
Got it. All right. So Rudy mentions 11:13 a.m. Central Time. So thank you for pointing out your time zone there, Rudy. Rudy, I know I said earlier I was stopping the location bonuses, but I'm going to go ahead and give Rudy, for at least helping us out with the algorithm, with another comment. Rudy, email Kevin at myamazonguy.com and just let me know that I said you get a free mag school course, and I'll give you a free $100 mag school course. Just for putting the time in. Very good. All right. So on that note, I'm going to go ahead and give another quick pitch for questions. So as I've said before, oftentimes almost every single time I do this, we run out of time at the end. And then like around this time, almost midway through, I'm like, I've got some questions, not enough to get through to the end of the show necessarily. So if you ask your questions now, you have a very good chance that you can get Vincenzo to give you some insight into this, into whatever your question is. But if you wait to the last minute, chances are you won't be able to get your questions asked. So make sure to ask your questions now while you still can, and most likely still be able to get it brought up. So, all right. So Brian B asks, hey guys, I'm launching a new product right now. However, I'm not seeing impressions, even if the bid is way above recommended level. Should I just copy it, remake the campaign? That's a good question.
Yeah. So, I mean, usually when this happens, it might be that you're having a listing issue, right? Because it's very strange that you're not having any impressions. So the first thing I will do, you will go to Amazon and go to customer support. you will enable the category listing report. You are going to download that, and you're going to see everything that's in the backend of your listing. Try to see what is the browsing node that is going to come out of the category listing report. And also you can download the browsing tree category guide to see what is the right subcategory node that you need to have on that flat file. That's usually the first fix I do, because if you have the wrong subcategory node, essentially you may have a wrong semantic. I mean, we've been talking semantic on all these events and masterminds, because that's actually something Amazon is putting a huge influx into. So if you have the wrong subcategory node, essentially the semantic that Amazon sees between the category that you're using right now and the keywords you're trying to target is not matching. And that's why you might not be having impression. That's the first thing. The second thing I will do in terms of troubleshooting is making sure you're indexing for those keywords. So run an indexation, basically audit on your listing, making sure that you actually have those keywords into your listing in this first place, because if you don't, that might be also the reason why not generating impressions. And the third thing I will also check, which sometimes people don't know this, but it might be that your listing got, the actual ASIN got a disabled for advertising, and the campaign level is going to show delivering. So you might be thinking it's delivering, but if you go inside the ads level, it might show that unable to advertise, ineligible, right? So if it's in red, it might be that it got suppressed because of specific keyword you added to your campaigns. You're going to need to raise a case with Amazon ad support and enable it again. And usually if you go through these three troubleshooting phases I walk you through, you're going to identify the issue, because most likely it's one of them. You just have to basically figure out
Yeah, and it could be an adult flag or something like that too. Which, oh gosh,
Yeah.
I've had products. I'm like, well, adults use it, but not for adult quote unquote purposes.
Exactly.
For benign purposes. All right. So Anub Hav, totally sorry if I butchered that. I worked on Amazon ads. However, when it comes to the catalog part, like the ASIN detail page, would like to know how to begin the research of product or detail page optimization, listing optimization, basically. What exactly should I start working on? Images, videos, attributes, A+ content. I'm going to rephrase the question. Where do you get the best bang for your buck when you're doing listing optimization?
So I would say where you get the best return on investment in terms of time is definitely the copy first, in terms of what you do with your title, your bullet points, and the backend. I would say that's the seed of the success, because if you're using the wrong keywords, that's going to be a huge issue moving forward in terms of the effects it's going to create in our area, such as PPC, such as getting ranked organically, and all the efforts you do from there is going to be away. So the copy is number one, making sure you have the right keywords, number one priority. The second one is images, because images is the foundation of your product. At the end of the day, people on Amazon are shopping images, not products. If you don't have the right images, essentially you are breaking the link between what the consumer sees on the screen and what actually they understand they're getting out of buying your product in the first place. Because you need to make sure on an image, within 3 to 5 seconds, the customer understands what they're getting and why your product is better than the competition. That's why it's so important your images having like comparison with the competitors, having insights in terms of how your product is better than the competitor, or highlighting any pattern, any unique feature, things that in a few seconds you know what you're getting. Because if you try to put all that in a copy, again, copy is still important because some people go and read and everything. But let's be honest, with the TikTok phenomenon is happening right now, the most of the conversion now happens on the images. That's the reality, right? Copy is usually a second thought if there's a confusion or something, but people shop with the images. So if with the images you cannot answer, the objections in terms of why your product is better, anything else that you do in terms of copy and PPC is also going to go through the window. So that's actually where I invest most of my money, is getting top photographer, top professional in terms of background model, 3D rendering. I want to make sure my product looks like Apple, like mint condition, like images are perfect, because as soon as they start looking a bit dodgy, a bit cheap and everything, that's the effect you get to your consumers. And in fact, that's why sometimes you struggle even to charge a premium price. Like we have products that some of our competitors charge $20-$30 less than us, but we're able to charge a premium because of image and make you feel you're buying Apple product, but in essence the same product. It's about, you know, that perception. It's all about what people perceive to in terms of what they get in terms of the experience and all that. So images, number one, on second after, of course, the copy. And another thing I need to add in here that we're starting to see, you need to be very careful now what you add in your images. Before, images was a little bit about, you know, I will do image 1 to 3 in terms of the features and a little lifestyle. And then the last 3 or 4 images, because I didn't know what to do, I would just put random people playing with the product in the park or wherever, and wasn't sometimes from a semantic perspective connected to what the product is actually doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why that's dangerous now? Because Amazon is using image processing to essentially recognize what is happening on the picture. And we're seeing that actually affecting even our ranking. Sometimes we're having now products when launching that for text that we have on our packaging, phrases, terminologies, we don't have them on our listing, but we index and we get ranked. Just because we have them on the packaging, Amazon reads the image, for example, get us ranked on the specific keyword. Or for example, sometimes on an image we have, let's say I'm selling a yoga mat. And on the yoga mat, we have a background where the person is doing yoga on the beach. And let's say one of the keywords yoga mats for beach. Now, because Amazon recognized on the image there was a beach as a background, actually that helps for indexation and ranking as well, right? And something I recommend everybody to have a look at, if you go to Google right now and you look for something called Amazon Recognition with K, it's called Amazon Recognition, instead of C with K. That's actually the software Amazon uses for that. It's within the AWS kind of family of services. And you can actually create an account, it's free, and you can upload images there. And Amazon, using the algorithm, tells you what identifies. So I've been, when we actually do image optimization for our listings, we upload all the images to Amazon Recognition first and see what Amazon tells. Like, let's say I'm selling a yoga mat and I put the product to Amazon Recognition, and if Amazon starts telling me, no, this is a carpet, or this is a cover, or it doesn't recognize that it's actually a mat, that's a red flag. That means the image is not being processed correctly, and you need to go back to the drawing board and make sure what is perceived on the image, it can be actually recognized properly from Amazon algorithm. And that's been a big thing. Like, we've seen a huge shift on how Amazon is recognizing images. So yes, invest a lot of time and make sure it's accurate whatever you put in the image, because if your product is made for yoga and then you're, I don't know, putting things that have to do with soccer, it might create issues in terms of you know.
Got it. So just to make sure I understand, so it's recognition with a K instead of a C. Okay, that's so I found it on the aws.amazon.com.
You found it, right?
So let me just share the screen real quick. That's an interesting one. So
it's called image recognition software. You can see it.
Yeah. So Amazon image recognition or recognition image. So basically, if you have an AWS account, you can upload photos to
and
this,
Amazon
and
tells you what
it recognizes. That's interesting. That's interesting. And so, do we know for a fact that Amazon.com is using it, or something similar?
I have a lot of examples where by us changing the lifestyle or having things on the packaging, we get ranked, and that keyword is nowhere in the list.
Really? So with the keyword in the packaging in the image, you get,
I mean, this can open the door to things that you shouldn't be doing, of course.
But yes. Be careful. Marketers ruin everything.
Yeah, so don't abuse it, but yes.
Okay. Interesting. Well, that's a hack worth the cost of admission to this live stream. All right. So Umair asks, so what are your thoughts on VCPM campaigns? I'm familiar with what he's talking about, but do you mind explaining that to folks who are not?
Yeah, essentially these are campaigns are part of the sponsor display, essentially family. And usually these are more awareness kind of type of campaigns. Is usually the reach option that you pay per visualization, essentially. You don't pay per click. Usually this is a little bit, if you guys have ever heard DSP, right? It's essentially
Mhm.
a baby from DSP kind of strategy. You're paying more for awareness in terms of how many visualization, every 1,000, you pay a specific fee. Now, the thing with this kind of campaigns, guys, usually I don't use them from a conversion perspective. I use them when a client tells me out of $1,000, I want 10%, $100 go towards awareness. I don't care about the return on investment. I just want to make sure that my brand logo and product and everything is beaming my niche, right? So that's when we come in, create these kind of campaigns to create our presence and our authority in the market. Then I wouldn't usually use this from the perspective of, strategy that have to do with ranking, sales, or anything like that. As I say, it's a pure marketing play in terms of creating my presence. Now, what you can do though, from this perspective, is that once you start getting insights in terms of what is working in terms of the reports you start getting from these kind of campaigns, then that's where I use those insights and move all those metrics in terms of what is working from an awareness perspective to a conversion type of campaign, right? Because then from there, I start to identify where I'm having the most interaction, where I'm having the most interest, and then that's where I do some kind of beta testing campaigns on the conversion side of things, and then if you start converting, I boost the budget and go from there. So it's essentially a migration process. Start from awareness, see what kind of awareness creating the hype, you get that insight, move it to conversion, test the conversion side of the funnel. If it works, you increase the budget.
Got it. So the interesting question there is that I've always heard is, do you see any issues with attribution with these type of campaigns?
A
Or
lot.
Amazon
Yeah.
gives a
You're
little
gonna
too much
have
credit to them?
you're gonna have a 2% ACOS campaigns here. Yeah, I know. It happens all the time. I think what is happening, and I've been having this conversation with Amazon, is unfortunately the last touch point sometimes is not accurate, because what may be happening is that they did see definitely one of these ads, but the reason why they made a purchase is because they click on a sponsor type of campaign, a sponsor product, and it's not getting attributed back to the sponsor product. Is the one actually made the sale. It's getting attributed to the reach type of campaign. So that's why I will never see the KPI in terms of ACOS or anything of these campaigns like official kind of data. I usually only use it from the data perspective, what's actually with the audience, and then I move it to conversion, and that's where I actually trust what is happening with the ACOS and TACOS. But yes, unfortunately, sometimes you might think that yes, you are a magician, you're getting 2% ACOS, but
Wow, I'm really good at this display
it just a glitch.
campaigns.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. All right. So as we said before, feel free to drop in your questions. We are starting to fill up in questions. We'll do our best to get to as many of them as possible. So if you want your question to get answered and you've not yet asked it, now is the time to do it. If you want the best chance of getting to them, we can't guarantee we'll get to all questions, but the sooner you get your question asked, the more likely we will answer it at this point. So Umair asks, which contextual or audience works best for you? And I already know the answer starts with the words, it depends, ... But I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, so I would say for me, depending on the budget, I would say for me, the ones that's usually gonna give you the best outcome in terms of the reach is usually a audience. That's the one I've been using the most. Is also depending on the nature of the product, because sometimes it's contextual, the ones performing the most. But that's why you need to do a lot of split testing, because unfortunately, sponsor display, you might be surprised, but sometimes you need to do a lot of contextual, which is more, audiences that have been browsing your product or similar products. And it basically retargeting is people that need to have a lot of touch points. Touch point means, they have to see you multiple times, and that's where they make the decision. Whereas in other categories, which is more the remarketing audiences, it's more about somebody that, I'm going to give you a quick example. Let's say you're buying a gift, right? A gift for your dad. So that's the specific audience that will do audience instead of contextual, because when you're shopping for a gift, you don't really know what you want to give as a gift. You're just looking for that product that surprises you. That's why you will target the category as a whole, and therefore try to, with your images and the work you've been doing with your copy and everything, show them the offers to the person who don't know what they're shopping, create that first impression effect, and that's why they decide buy you, right? Whereas in the other approach, which is more contextual, It's more about, okay, what is being happening with my product? They're actually shopping for a garlic press. That means the only thing they're going to buy is going to go and now sell them a juice maker, right? So that's where you have to make the decision. If your category is the category that is more broad and you're looking for an audience which is, don't really know what they're shopping, I go for the audience. When it's more specific and they really know what they're shopping, that's where contextual can be more powerful.
Okay, no, that's a good way to look at it. All right, so we have LinkedIn user asks, would you negate your brand name in a sponsored brand video targeting campaign for more conversions?
I wouldn't do that. I mean, of course, what you need to come down is if you create a video campaign and you start to identify that the term that is creating a lot of sales and conversion is your branded terms, and that's being generated from a seed keyword that is not your branded term, then yes, because essentially the fundamentals of why you created that campaign in the first place, which was going for generic terms, is not delivering the promise. It's actually then going back to your branded terms. If that is happening, then yes, I will essentially try to move those generic terms to another campaign. I wouldn't kill the one that already my branded terms are performing well because it has some history, but the new campaign I created to target more generic search terms that doesn't have my brand into it, I will negate my brand in there, and then I will have two video campaigns. One that is already working with my branded search term and already is performing well, and the new one that is, I'm negating my brand, so I'm forcing the system to find me a placement where it's not because of my brand, it's because of the actual functionality of the keyword, right? So that's what I would do.
Okay. All right. So is order item session percentage related with organic conversion?
So he's relating the percentage within the business report, I guess.
Yes. So we're probably talking about, the session percentage with organic conversion.
It
includes
I don't. It includes it, but no, it goes.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's the case here because at the end of the day, within your report, which is the session percentage, remember here we are combining all the data, right? It goes beyond organic. When it's inorganic, again, it's only organic. So yes, it's two different things. Yeah.
Yeah, and the challenge is if you said like, oh, okay, well, just subtract my clicks from ads and my sales.
To do it.
Exactly, you're taking apples and oranges in the equation because they're not the same thing. But just real quick, do you mind explaining to people the difference between a session and a click? Because
of course,
people might think they're similar, but they're not the same thing.
Yeah, essentially, when you have a session, that means the people actually landed on the actual product details page, and then they made a purchase, right? So that's the main difference. When they click, but they didn't make a purchase. That's the difference. Yeah.
All right. So then we have the question came up of how do you handle the best keyword, or how do you find the best keywords to launch a new product campaign? So new listing, zero data. So you're starting off from scratch, about to launch a product. What keywords do you go after? Do you just go after the ones with the highest search volume and call it a day?
No, not really. Like something we've been using now a lot is the Pro Opportunity Explorer for this, because funny enough, now they give exactly what the keywords that are controlling the niche, and it tells you who are the main dominants at the keyword level, the top 3 competitors. So what we try to do, we take the main keyword, we put in the Pro Opportunity Explorer, then it opens the whole niche for me, and you go to the search term bar, and it gives you all the keywords that derive from that search terms. And we try to see, based on the KPIs that Amazon gives us, which are the ones driving the most traffic in terms of search volume and so on. And then on top of that, we try to see the competitors on the right-hand side. We take those competitors. We also reverse acing those competitors to get the keywords that they're getting indexed and everything. And then when it comes to actually choosing what is the batch of the top 10 keywords we have to go for, it usually comes down to what are the keywords where our competitors are having the most amount of conversion, and also the most consistency in terms of the top competitors getting ranked on that keyword. Because if we have, let's say we're talking 20 competitors, right? And on those 20 competitors we come across, we only out of 50 keywords, only 10 keywords are the ones that these 20 competitors are always on page 1, and they have a very high conversion, those are usually the keywords that bring the biggest amount of sales. And those are the keywords we need to decide for to get a part of the market share. Now, this is at the end of the day, this is also going to depend on your budget strategy, because if the budget is limited here, actually the strategy could be all the opposite. It might be identifying what are the keywords where, for example, not a lot of competitors have this keyword on the title. That means I can get to page one very fast. Which are the keywords where my competitors are not on page one, but the search funnel is respectable? And I might go more for the low-hanging fruit if my budget is limited. So those are usually the two strategies. If your budget is decent and you actually have budget for a proper launch, I go for the main keywords as I already described how I identify them. Otherwise, I go for the long-hanging fruit in terms of where I know my competitors haven't done a proper optimization of the listing, they're not shown on page one, or not all the main competitors are on page one, and therefore there's more space on the placements for me to take over.
Good stuff. All right. So Leonard Lee asks, can you please spell again the Amazon recognition site?
Yeah. So with the K. So essentially, exactly as you are writing, just instead of C, it will be a K. Yeah.
And
maybe you can put it there.
Yeah, I'll put it into the chat here, and so it'll be posted as a comment. It might only show up in YouTube. So, but looks like Leonard's on YouTube. But let me just share my screen again here real quick. So, as you can see, it's recognition with a K here.
Exactly.
Instead of a C.
And you click in there, get started, you create an account, it's free for the, I think free for the first 1 month, and then you go from there.
Okay. Wow. And so, well, it's interesting, the labels that it would put, at least according to this.
You see the image, so exactly like that. So you put an infographic, and you want to make sure the infographic throws back at you the elements that you want your product to be relatable to in terms of ranking and all of that. If it's not, the image is not doing that, that means you're not doing a proper job in the first place of image design. You need to go back and redesign until you get it right. Because Amazon is going to throw a percentage of how accurate it is for different elements. You want to make sure it's as accurate as possible.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Even if it's not 100% correct, you probably at least want to take its feedback and figure out if you need to do something a little bit different, because if they're using, whether it's this exact algorithm or one similar to it, I would imagine it's probably, even if it's a slightly different algorithm that the marketplace uses, it probably is at least on the same chassis, meaning it uses the same overall philosophy.
That's
all right. So that was good. So then next up, we have Venom asks, hey there, boss. What are the first strategies you would take in PPC when handling a new client? So this is now on the client end, but I think sellers can benefit from this. So you're taking a look at scratch from someone who's an existing seller and trying to optimize, which sellers could always, I'm sure, utilize whatever you're about to say here as well.
Yeah, so I would say the first thing super important with the client, you need to define what are his objectives, because sometimes our clients come to us and they tell me, you know what, Vincenzo, my goal is not to make as many sales as possible now. It's more about a dominance of my specific brand and creating my name into that specific niche, right? And over time, I only want to focus on save and subscribe. So even if my equals to 100%, don't care. Focus on dominating all the placements and focus on getting recurring consumers. So that's a different strategy altogether. If then I have another client that comes to me and say, you know what, I want a tag cost of 10%. So that's the first thing. You need to define what the client wants, because it's not a copy-paste strategy. The strategy has to be tailored to what the consumer needs. Then based on what the consumer needs, if the client says, I want to do, I'm going to focus on what most clients want to focus on, which is lowering their tag costs, then you have to go down. First of all, have a look at all the historical data, identify what the search terms they've been converting profitable in terms of with a good conversion, they have consistent low tag costs and everything, and make sure that those search terms are essentially kept into the historical campaigns, because as I say, history is a very important factor to make sure that your CPC is kept competitive instead of launching a new campaign. Then once you identify the keywords that the client hasn't been profitable for, that's where I will go then in and say, okay, actually this client hasn't been split testing these keywords into another campaign, or he hasn't tested this keyword in phrase, in broad, or exact, or he hasn't been doing pro targeting campaign, or he hasn't doing sponsor brand campaign, then that once identified their wins, I make sure their wins are isolated and they are, of course, optimized and kept with a healthy budget. But then I talk to the client and try to divert part of the budget to experiment on new strategies, because at the end of the day, that's how you revive and optimize an account. It's not only about working with the legacy campaigns, it's about bringing to the table things that the client is essentially not doing. And I can't guarantee you this, because I've been doing hundreds of audits. Most of the time, people only use, for example, the basics like exact, auto, and that's it. There's so many things that people are not doing with sponsor brands, sponsor display. And you can, if you design a proper good strategy, you can showcase to your client, like, you know what, actually, we should be implementing things beyond sponsor pro. Like, for example, a quick win, sponsor display pro targeting campaign is essentially very similar to sponsor pro campaigns. Now you can target competitors from a different perspective under the buy box, under the bullet points. You can even now put videos under the bullet points. Most people are not doing that. Quick win right there, right? Things like that. Try to bring things outside the box and make sure that your client sees that, I'm coming to the table with things that go beyond the traditional exact, phrase, and broad, which I feel is what everybody's doing and living their campaigns, right? Yeah.
Good stuff. All right. So Omer asks, have you tried to optimize the VCPM campaign? What are your thoughts? Yeah, we already talked about those orders aren't necessarily legit, so don't get too excited about those.
Yeah. It's not being attributed correctly.
Yeah, exactly. They're attributing it in their favor, basically.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Vallon asks, do you find day parting to be less effective when selling higher price premium products?
I don't really see a correlation between price, if I'm honest with you. I see a correlation with the type of category. I'm going to give you a quick insight. I was in a meeting with a client the other day. He sold products for kitchen, and we identified that, funny enough, when he has the biggest sales is usually during lunch and during dinner time. I was trying to reverse engineer why it was the case. And then when we saw the time, usually was matching with times where people are cooking their lunch or dinner, right? And it makes sense, because if you're going to buy a product that has to do with kitchen, usually the thought of you buying something for your kitchen, you're in the kitchen.
I need to get that. Yeah.
I need to get that. You go to Amazon, you buy it, right? And so that's where, I'm so fascinated with understanding the behavior of your consumers and the avatar behind your brand. And for example, I'm not going to go too deep into this, but just to give you a glimpse of what is coming to Amazon, AMC is all about that. It's about understanding the journey of a consumer, how they behave, and what is essentially the driven force behind buying your product or not. And I feel when it comes to doing the part, is the same thing. You need to identify patterns in terms of what makes a client buy a product during a specific day of the week or time of the week, of time of the day, and then you make sure you leverage those insights to optimize your bids, your budget, and you ensure that when the client is the most motivated to make a purchase, you are in front of those eyeballs and convert them. That's it.
Awesome. W asks, what are your thoughts on keyword harvesting, using auto campaigns to identify high-performing targets and then moving those to manual? And then the follow-up question is, if you do that, do you negate those keywords in the auto campaign, or do you leave them there, which is sometimes a controversial topic? Love to hear your thoughts.
So when it comes to this, auto campaigns is definitely a good way to harvest keywords. However, I will say it's broad and phrased. Usually, besides those methodologies, we also use brand analytics. Brand analytics, every single month we download the report, and then we basically store that data, and we try to identify new search terms that might come into a search query performance report, or the keyword master keyword list from Amazon. And if we identify new search terms that we're not targeting, we'll make sure we keep adding that to your PPC campaigns. And to answer the question in terms of negation, no, we don't, because we have identified that sometimes moving a keyword to exact, for example, for whatever reason, phrase and broad sometimes give you access to unique placements at a lower CPC that you're never able to achieve with exact. So therefore, we want to open both doors open in terms of leave a keyword running on auto, phrase, and broad, and exact, and that's it. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So Stephen would say never negate a good keyword. All right. So this might be, I'll have time for another one after this. Matthew asks, hi, Matthew, this side from India. Is it good to use tools like Helium 10? I'm seeing advertisement of tools like Helium 10 recently. Oh yeah, you're going to see advertisement of tools,
Everywhere.
regardless of what
Yeah.
tool that is.
That's what we call retargeting, Matthew.
Yes, that's true. You're in their funnel. They're doing
Exactly.
what's called marketing. No, it's a very good question though. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on tools and which tools do you use?
So for me, I use Healing Time and Data Dive. Those are my go-to tools when it comes to working on Amazon relatable things. However, I'm a huge advocate that you need to test all of them because at the end of the day, some of these tools overlap in terms of functionality, and sometimes the decision maker is going to be things such as how the UI looks like, the speed, how you feel in terms of their packages, things that sometimes goes beyond the actual functionality. And that's why until you don't test all of them, you don't know which one is the best one for you. It's like going to an ice cream shop and always getting chocolate, but you haven't tested the other flavors, and you never know if actually your favorite flavor is another one. So make sure you test all of them. All of them have like a trial, so why not do it?
Right,
and then stay with whatever is best for you. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes it just comes to, what is your workflow and how well does it work with your workflow? And, I love all the tools out there, but one thing I will say is they all do a very good job hyping you up as to why you need their tool. So always challenge yourself. Do you need the tool because it solves an issue or because, wow, I need it? Like if you sound excited about it, take a step back, sleep on it, and then come back.
Don't fall by the shiny object, do it because you actually need it, So
I've spent lots of money on tools over the years, and some have been better than others. I'll just say that.
Yeah, I know.
And it's not necessarily a correlation of how excited I was before I signed up. So
I know.
All right. So LinkedIn user asks, what should be the date range for hourly campaign report to set an effective bid? Isn't 14 days period too short to decide what hour has high
So for me, usually when I do essentially design day parting, which is what you're effectively asking here, I will at least wait 30 to 60 days because I know the day 14 days sometimes is a bit of a gamble. You don't know if a specific event happened in those 2 weeks, seasonality, fluctuation because of macroeconomics, things like that. So you want to make sure you have enough data set to make a decision. Usually 30 to 60 days, we have fun is consistent. Yeah.
All right, good stuff. All right, so thank you everybody for joining us here. I would like to ask Vincenzo, if folks want to learn more from you or follow you, where should they go?
Yeah, so if you want to find me, go to ecomc.com. That's the name of our agency where we do full account management. By myself, you can find me any platform. Vincenzo Toscano is only one in the industry, actually, so I'm lucky. So look for Vincenzo in LinkedIn, in Instagram, Facebook. I post a lot of things, not only educational, but also about, all the things in terms of events that I go, like this one right now. If you go on Instagram, you're going to see all the fun here the Amazonians are having in France. So yeah, feel free to reach out. I'm very easy to talk to. I'm happy to jump on a call whenever you need and add some value to your business.
Yeah, definitely. And if you see Vincenzo at an event, he might take a selfie with you.
It's like I'm the selfie guy. I have that name already trademarked.
That's good. It's good to be known for something. All right. So Vincenzo, thank you for sharing your knowledge on this live stream. And for folks joining us, make sure to join us for the next one. If I promised you something, just email Kevin at myamazonguy.com and give me at least until this evening before you get frustrated, because I promised a lot of things to a lot of people. So it may take me a little while to deliver it all. But again, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Vincenzo.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate that. Thank you.